You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.
Right now at 7, an area museum with hopes of preserving our past is looking for help from a federal grant. Samantha Walker has the details.
Also, charges will be filed against former Marion police chief over the raid of a local newspaper.
And we've got a very hot day again across the area, at least for most of us. And we've got some drier air on the way. We'll have a look at that forecast. Get you out the door. Coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Elise Noe.
I'm Chris Warner, just after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. It's August the 6th. It's election day.
Yes,
it's primary day for Kansas and Missouri voters. Kansas polls opened 50 seconds ago. So why aren't you there voting right now?
Yeah.
Well, because you're watching us. You got to know what to do before you head out.
Absolutely.
That's what we're here for. Missouri polls, of course, opened at 6.
Yes, and they will be open. Both polls will be open until 7 p.m. And we'll, of course, have those results as they come in on our website, koamnewsnow.com/election.
We certainly will.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the Franklin, Kansas Miners Hall Museum is proud to help showcase the history of Southeast Kansas. But they want to make sure they're preserving it, too.
KOAM's Samantha Walker has more on how museum staff hope a federal program will help them protect the past.
My grandparents were miners. My father worked on Big Brutus, so I grew up on a coal camp, Daisy Hill.
Southeast Kansas mining history, as well as early families, is showcased all throughout the Miners Hall Museum, drawing thousands of visitors a year, such as this group from Italy. Susan Bester helps walk visitors through all the different displays, helping to answer any questions they may have.
It's really rewarding, especially when someone finds a name in the library or find what they did and what the day-to-day things were for the family. People are always excited when they discover, and it might be good, it might be bad, you just never know.
But the Miners Hall Museum wants to do more than just showcase history. They hope to preserve it. That's why museum staff applied for the Collection Assessment for Preservation program, also known as CAPS, a federally run program that helps different sites learn what steps they can do to improve their preservation efforts. Only 71 sites were chosen across the country.
It's an assessment program, and it will help us evaluate our museum and what we're doing correctly, what we're doing incorrectly. It will give us some guidance, and we were very excited to be accepted for that program.
The museum was one of only 14 in the nation to receive data loggers that will be used to measure the temperature and humidity of certain exhibits. Museum staff say the information they learn from these data loggers will help tell them what steps they may need to take to help preserve certain artifacts.
There's so many things that go along with preserving the artifacts, whether it's temperature, whether it's the lighting. There's just a lot that goes into it. It's just not, you don't just put a name on something and stick it on a shelf. And each item, whether it's paper, cloth, whatever it is made of, requires some different type of care.
And the museum staff say their acceptance into the program couldn't have come at a better time as they plan for an expansion of the site.
This will give us a lot of guidance in what we need to do and plan for in that new building by showing us what we're doing correctly and incorrectly currently.
And for Susan, who loves showcasing the area's history, she's excited that the artifacts that matter to visitors will be able to exist for years to come.
It's amazing that we had so many people who had the foresight to save these artifacts.
Reporting in Franklin, Samantha Walker, KOAM News.
The Miners Hall Museum staff say they hope to receive a final report on the results of the program in the beginning of next year.
Certainly very important to preserve history.
Yes.
And as they mentioned, you know, with the older documents, older things like that, if it's not kept at the right temperature, right levels, it can deteriorate very quickly. So got to make sure you're taking care of it the best way you can. And putting it outside in this heat, probably not a good idea because it's going to be another hot day across the area. Let's start with a live look from our camera on the Cornell Complex, downtown Joplin. We still have a southerly breeze in Joplin, and we'll continue to have one for us the next several hours out there. there. But some of us today are going to get into that northerly breeze a little earlier than others. Our camera, 7th and range line, also looking pretty good. We've got clear skies out there. Looks like a fantastic start to the day, albeit a bit of a warm start to the day. MoDOT camera, 32nd and range line, also looking fairly good this morning as well. We do have heat advisories into northeastern Oklahoma through 9 o'clock tonight. Heat index values could be 105, 110 degrees out there within that range. So keep that in mind, because as you know, in this area, the further south and west you typically go, the hotter it usually gets out there. So by noon, excuse me, is what we're talking about. Here's that wind shift line. Our northern counties, and I'm talking our far northern counties, say 54 and points north, are going to get into that northerly breeze a little earlier. Now, it's not going to bring in cold air, it's bringing in drier air, and that may also help limit how hot you get today. If you're long and north of 54, you may only make the low 90s. But if you are south of that point, which is about 90% of us, we're looking at those highs once again today, upper 90s and even some lower 100s out there before we all eventually get in on that northerly breeze later this afternoon into the evening. We are sitting at 73 in Joplin, 72 in Pittsburgh. I was thinking about that camera and where it went, and there it is. And again, above average. We're at 69 is our average low. Now we have some of our locations, Grove J right now, right at average. They were a little cooler than that this morning. Most of us low mid 70s. We do have some upper 70s out there. Chanute's been the warm spot all morning long, sitting at 77 now. Sunny skies through the morning and into the afternoon and into the evening. Maybe a few clouds like yesterday. Again, those highs uncomfortable, upper 90s, lower 100s out there. Again, drier air moves in. Then we have some rain chances and some cooler weather on the way. We'll look at all that in the full forecast here in a few more minutes. Elise?
See you soon, Chris. Well, it's election day in Kansas and Missouri as voters cast their ballots and decide on county and statewide races. Polls are now open in both states. This year, voter turnout is expected to bounce back after the pandemic. KOAM's Amber Jenkins joins us live from Villas Heights Christian Church in Joplin. Good morning, Amber.
Good morning. Missouri polls have been open for an hour now, and some election clerks are already predicting a higher voter turnout compared to 2020. I spoke to the Newton County's election clerk, and they're already expecting a higher turnout.
Absentee ballot mailouts in August of 2020, there was a total of 609. Currently today, we're over 500 in the in-person walk-ins, and we had sent out around 240 approximately. I believe we've got a little over 200 back there. So we are going to surpass that percentage of voter turnout.
Missouri polls are open until 7 o'clock tonight. Elise, back to you.
All right, Amber, thanks. And as mentioned, the polls are now open for both Missouri and Kansas. Voters in both states will decide primary elections featuring a variety of races, including state and local offices, as well as some tax issues. Polling places in Missouri opened at 6 a.m. and they will remain open until 7 p.m. In Kansas, they open at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You'll be able to find results as they come in on our website, KOAMNewsNow.com. The Peoria County, Illinois coroner releases the cause of death of Sydney Watson, a Carl Junction 8-year-old who died on a flight to Chicago. The flight diverted to Peoria, Illinois due to the little girl's medical complications. The coroner has now determined she died from complications from multiple infections, which they say suggest an underlying autoimmune disorder. Well, two special prosecutors say they plan to charge a former Central Kansas police chief over his conduct following a raid last year on his town's newspaper. It stems from an August 2023 police raid on the Marion County Record and the home of its publisher. Prosecutors say former Marion Police Chief Gideon Cody obstructed justice by withholding information from investigators. Authorities also say the newspaper and its staff committed no crimes. And those are our top news stories this half hour. Coming up next, Gina Langston from the Joplin School District is with us this morning. She's here to share how you can connect with local healthcare providers. And later, Charlene Patton shares her version of stuffed shells. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Gina Langston from the Joplin School District is with us this morning, along with Eddie Eagle, to share about their upcoming health benefits and retail therapy fair. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. So talk to me a little bit about this fair that is going on and kind of all the resources that Joplin residents can get from it.
Well, it is this Friday, starting at 9 a.m. for the public. School staff can get in a little bit early for their early bird, entry. But we will have about 110 different businesses present, and they'll have different food samples. There'll be some boutiques there. You can get some Eagle gear. You can kind of check and see, what kind of resources you're looking for as far as different hospitals we will have there, and other primary physicians available. There'll be some screenings on site if you want to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. And this is ahead of the school year. And so how important is it for families to kind of get those healthcare providers lined up before the busy school year starts?
Definitely important, because whenever, it's so important for families or kids to not miss school. So once we get those figured out, who your primary is and all these other appointments, you can get them all scheduled and take care of it early so that, you're not fighting for appointment time.
Absolutely. And so this is open to the public, and you said it's this Friday at 9 a.m. Just talk to me a little bit more about the other resources along with the healthcare providers that folks who come out to the event can get.
Absolutely. So there aren't just health benefits there. I mean, those are there, obviously. There'll be different therapy options. There'll be some tutoring options. Different nonprofits will be there if people need to sign up for, take advantage of that. Bright Futures will be there on site. There'll be a lot of fun things to do too. So some people have fun little games and activities. Some dentists will be there. Chiropractors, you name it. People are kind of stuck in their ways, so it's hard to get out and see everything. So we've kind of brought it all in, for you, so you can explore all the different places in one place.
Fantastic. And how have you seen this benefit kids and families in the Joplin community?
Well, honestly, there's not a lot of students that come to this. So if you're expecting to see kids running around every which way, that's really not what it is. So it was primarily set up originally to for our employees to enroll in their annual health benefits. So while they're there enrolling in their benefits, then they can also find the new resources and everything. And since we've already gone to the trouble of bringing all of the resources in one place, that's why we open it up to the public. So really trying to make it convenient for everyone, and of course show off our wonderful facility as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Gina and Eddie Eagle, for being with us this morning. To find more information, you can visit their Facebook page located at the bottom of your screen. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News, 7:17 now on this Tuesday morning. My old high school mascot just made a visit. Of course, man, that's been almost 20 years ago. And my friends who are watching, because friends I went to school with, they're now watching in the morning. Not to make us feel any older, but it's been almost 20 years ago since we graduated. That's a long time. What is not going to be a long time is the wait for some cooler temperatures. It's going to feel like it, though, with how hot it's going to be today and into the next couple of days even. Our camera on the Cornell Complex downtown Joplin looking pretty good so far. We got clear skies out there, 7th and Range Line as well. We're going to head down south to 32nd and Range Line, the MoDOT camera located there. We got folks waiting at the red light, not just taking off. I saw somebody do that this morning. I think they were just tired of the light at Murphy and Murphy Boulevard in Maine. And before I got there, they just decided, you know what, let's just go. Don't do that. It's not safe, not a good idea. And what if I was a cop? See, bad things all around here. All right, KDOT camera, 69, Kansas Crossing, also looking pretty good this morning as well. Just remember, just follow the law. It's the easiest thing to do. It'll keep you out of trouble. We got the wind shift starting to take place at about noon. However, take a look at the arrows along the north, really, of Highway 54. It almost lines up almost perfectly with that. You'll already be in that northerly breeze. Now, as we talked about, this is not going to bring in cold air, but it brings in drier air, and that may help limit how warm some of you in our far northern counties get today. You may only make the low 90s out there, where all the rest of us to the south are looking at upper 90s and lower 100s for our highs today. And then look at how quickly some of these temperatures fall back tonight. It's going to be a little below average for many of us. Their average low about 69, and we're looking to be, most of us, in the mid to upper 60s, but some low 60s absolutely possible out there. We go on to Wednesday. It's going to be hot again, but thanks to the drier air, we're a little slower to warm. So we're talking upper 70s, low 80s by noon tomorrow. And then as we go into the afternoon, again, low mid 90s for our highs. Then we'll head later into Thursday. And by Thursday morning, clouds starting to increase out there. Some of us could see some isolated to widely scattered showers and thunderstorms start to roll in the first part of our Thursday. Now, unfortunately, most of us will remain dry on Thursday, but some of us could get some rain. The other unfortunate side effect of this is it's not really going to do much for temperatures. It'll keep them slow to warm initially, but as that rain clears out, as you can see, many of us going back low to mid 90s across the region. So again, another uncomfortable day out there before we see some additional rain chances next week. All right. We're looking at heat advisories into northeastern Oklahoma through 9 tonight. Heat index values could be 105, maybe upwards of 110. So do keep that in mind today. We're at 73 in Joplin, south-southwest breeze at 6. So still out of the south, and we're still dealing with some muggy conditions out there. We got Anderson, Grove, and Jay into the upper 60s. The rest of us low mid 70s, and we've got Chanute and Yates Center now, both up at 77. Sunny skies through the morning, about 90 by 11 o'clock. And as we mentioned, our highs today, upper 90s, lower 100s for many of us. Low mid 90s tomorrow, mid 90s on Thursday. And then we start to cool back. Maybe a few showers Friday morning. As we head into the weekend, we're talking mid upper 80s, low 90s next week with some additional scattered shower and thunderstorm chances as we kick off the next work week. That's Check Your Forecast. We're back with more right after this. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. Our good friend Charlene Patton from the Kansas Soybean Commission joining us once again. And so we're getting into August. School is right around the corner for a number of kids. And I'm sorry to have to break that news to you, but it's getting close. But to help make that a little easier, got some back to school recipes for us.
We do, because I thought Mom and Dad are busy trying to get everybody on a new schedule, and there's all kinds of school activities and everything. So let's do some meals that will be easy for them to fix ahead of time or have for the family.
Okay.
And they come from our Soy Foods Guide again. So if they haven't ordered that, just call us and we'll send it to them.
Excellent.
What we're doing is easy pasta shells. And so it's really kind of a take on lasagna, if you like that with the cheese and the sauce.
Yeah, who
and
doesn't?
It's easy to make ahead of time. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to make the filling first. This is 1 box of silken tofu. It says soft tofu, but I've also used the firm tofu, and it doesn't matter.
Okay.
We have lasagna recipes on our website. It uses the tofu. You'll never know it's in there, but it really just extends the cheese that's in there and makes it less calories and adds more protein to it. So to this, you're going to add 1 egg.
All right.
And I'll say that I drained that tofu too. We always want to do that. Now we have a little bit of fresh parsley we're going to add to that. I'll just keep stirring. And then you have 1.5 cups of grated mozzarella cheese. That's kind of a staple for great.
Kind of came out in one big piece there. All right.
And then we have some Parmesan cheese.
Okay.
Great.
There we go.
Doesn't that look like a nice, great mixture?
Oh, absolutely.
There for
I love lasagna, so this is already looking pretty good.
So all we do is just mix this a little bit, and then I've got a spoon here. I cook the pasta ahead of time, just the directions on the package.
Okay.
And when you look for it in the store, it's jumbo pasta shells.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking for. So cook them and then let them cool there a little bit. Then we're just going to take a spoon and put that inside there. And it says to do 18, but depending on your dish, we've got a 9 by 13 casserole here. And I think there's probably 20 of them here or whatever.
Okay.
But that's fine, however many fit in there. And then what I wanted to show, we have one on display here. If your family is smaller, you don't want the full size, make 2 different ones. You could freeze one to have later.
Okay.
And have 2 meals there. So here we have them all in there. It takes 1 jar of spaghetti sauce. So it's like a 26 or 28 ounce jar.
Okay.
I put 1 cup in the bottom of it to here that we've already got it. Then filled it with our shells. Now you're going to drizzle the rest of the sauce over the top of that. great. And there's so many different kinds of pasta sauces. If you want one, a plain one, if you want one with meat or vegetables in it, or Chris, if you want to make it yourself, you can do that.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. You did a good job there.
All right.
And then on top of that, we have a little bit more of our cheeses. So we have about a half a cup of the Parmesan, and then, or a fourth of a cup of the Parmesan there, and then a half a cup of the rest of the mozzarella cheese. This is going to go in the oven and bake at 350 for about 30 minutes until it's bubbling. And then you want to cover it with foil, and then take it out, and you have dinner that's ready. Could make this ahead of time and then just put it in the oven and maybe bake it for just a few more minutes if it comes out of the refrigerator.
Okay, looks pretty good. And of course, you mentioned this is in there in the Soy Foods Guide, which folks can still order. And of course, if they want that or any of the other recipes we're featuring, where do they need to go?
They need to go to kansassoybeans.org or call our 800 number 877-KS Soybean. Ask for the August recipes, but then also ask Megan if you can have another copy of the Soy Foods Guide. 30-some pages of information and recipes.
Excellent, Charlene. Thank you so much. And of course, if you missed any of that, you know where else you can go. Right to our website, KOAMNewsNow.com. We'll be
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:30. I'm Elise Noe. Voters in Kansas and Missouri, now is the time for your voice to be heard. Polls are open for both states for primary elections. KOAM's Amber Jenkins joins us live from Villas Heights Christian Church in Joplin. Good morning, Amber.
The 2024 primary election started at 6 a.m. for Missouri polls. However, voters need to be aware of misinformation circulating online concerning ballots. False information stating that writing or marks on your ballot will invalidate your ballot has been floating around on social media. Scott County and other Missouri counties have posted that poll workers are required to initial each ballot to note that the voter's eligibility and identification has been verified and the voter has been issued the correct ballot style. And Missouri polling locations will be open until 7 p.m. tonight.
All right, Amber, thanks. And as Amber said, the polls are now open for both Missouri and Kansas. Voters in both states will decide primary elections featuring a variety of races, including state and local offices, as well as some tax issues. Polling places in Missouri opened at 6 a.m. and will remain open until 7 p.m. And in Kansas, they opened at 7 a.m. and will remain open until 7 p.m. You'll be able to find results as they come in on our website, KOAMNewsNow.com. Quapaw Nation is in dire need of foster parents for children. Krista Millard is the Indian Child Welfare Director for Quapaw Nation and says they are having an extra hard time finding a home for teenage children. Quapaw Nation is looking for tribal foster parents that will help kids with their mental health journey and keep them connected to their culture.
A lot of the kids that we see that are teenagers have really seen a lot of trauma and have been through a lot, and they really haven't had someone there to kind of help them figure out how to deal with those traumas. So when we're looking at homes, that's what we really want.
Willard says it's very rewarding for foster parents to see the growth of their foster child. Potential foster parents must be at least 21 and complete a home study before they accept the child into their home. The school year is about to begin again, which means school buses will soon become a regular sight in traffic. Students and parents in Carthage will get a chance to learn about the district's bus routes and procedures today. The school bus information night will also include a bus tour, a safety lesson on and around the bus, and a meeting with the district's transportation team.
It's important because I know that the younger kids leaving home for maybe the first time, it's got to be a little bit scary for them. So if we can do anything to get them a little bit comfortable, that's what we're going to shoot for.
The event will run from 4 to 7 p.m. today at the Carthage High School Commons and is available to all students in the district and their parents. Well, student musicians are also preparing for the upcoming school year. Pittsburgh High School is hosting a camp for its marching band. Yesterday, they practiced at Hutchfield near Pittsburgh Community Middle School. The PHS band camp runs through Friday, which is capped off with a performance for parents at 5:30 p.m. Now here's Chris with a look at the forecast.
We're having a party here. It's a party day. It's election day. As we've been telling you all morning, make sure you get out there and vote. This is a live look from our camera at 7th and Rangeline. We've got clear skies out there looking pretty good. It's a bit mild for many of us this morning. Also looking fairly good from MoDOT camera. 32nd and Rangeline. Heat advisories through 9 o'clock for most of northeastern Oklahoma. So you could see heat index values 105 to 110 degrees. By noon, that wind shift line is going to start pushing through. So as we've been discussing this morning, if you're along and north of Highway 54, your highs may only reach the low 90s, whereas everyone south of that is very likely going to be into the upper 90s and lower 100s today before that wind shift line pushes fully through and starts to bring in some drier air to the area, which will help us in the long run. It'll make our overnights a little cooler. 73 in Joplin and in Pittsburgh right now. Around the region, most of us low mid 70s to get the day started. Still some upper 60s, Grove, Anderson, and Jay, and Chanute Yates Center, the two warm spots at this point, both at 77 degrees. We're going to look at sunny skies, maybe a few clouds here and there. Again, the majority of us upper 90s, lower 100s. It's still going to be hot the next couple of days. Then we're starting to see some relief heading into the weekend and next week. And we'll break down those details for you in the full forecast here in just a few more minutes. Elise?
Chris, thanks. And that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. A blacksmith in California is using his talents to help lower gun violence in his city. And Consumer Watch this morning, Google loses a massive antitrust lawsuit over its search dominance. A judge found the company's popular search engine has been illegally suppressing competition and stifling innovation. The highly anticipated decision comes nearly a year after the start of a trial that pitted the Justice Department against Google in the country's biggest antitrust showdown in a quarter of a century. Well, doctors warn popular weight loss drugs may trigger eating disorders. One expert at Mount Sinai's Center of Excellence in Eating and Weight Disorders says in some cases the drug's effect on the body, rapid weight loss, may be interpreted in their brain as starvation, which can trigger them to become more obsessive about their food. Other doctors say they have not seen the phenomenon often in their clinics. They hope more research will be done on the link between eating disorders and GLP-1s. Well, it looks like this could be a better day for your retirement account after hours in international trading showed the markets might be bouncing back. That's after the Dow fell more than 1,000 points yesterday. Some investors think the Federal Reserve has kept interest rates too high for too long. They're worried about a recession. Now a Fed bank president is addressing those concerns, as Amy Kiley reports.
Everything is always on the table, whether that's increases, cuts, etc.
The Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago president is trying to reassure investors after recession fears caused days of market chaos. But don't expect an emergency meeting to cut rates. He says it's not the panel's job to pump up the stock market.
The Fed's job is very straightforward. Maximize employment, stabilize prices, and maintain financial stability. If the conditions collectively start coming in that on the through line, there's deterioration on any of those parts, we're going to fix it.
In fact, the whole point of keeping interest rates high is to cool the economy, to bring down inflation.
This is to be expected. This was entirely predictable. Bearing in mind we had 11 increases in interest rates in barely 2 years, a phenomenal amount of tightening. It crushed inflation exactly as it was supposed to. But then, of course, you've got the other side. Eventually, unemployment starts to rise.
That's why Friday's report of a 0.2 percentage point unemployment increase matters. Right now, the GDP indicates a pretty good economy. The Fed is trying to time rate cuts just right to reduce inflation without causing a recession.
Has the Fed left it too late? The consensus is probably yes.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
The feds have another meeting scheduled 6 weeks from now, and it could cut rates then. And those are our top consumer stories. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News, 7:43 on this Tuesday morning. We're going to start with a live look from our camera on the Cornell Complex downtown Joplin. Got clear skies out there. Very nice start to the day. Beautiful clear skies also from our camera at 7th and Range Line. A little further south, 32nd and Range Line. Traffic moving right along, and the skies, of course, still clear. And we travel over across state lines into Kansas. KDOT camera 69 at Kansas Crossing. You can see plentiful sunshine out there as we get this day underway. So by noon, again, the wind shift line starting to push through the area. So again, those along and north of Highway 54 may only reach the low 90s for your highs, but 90% of us are going to be pretty darn hot today as we look to go into the upper 90s and lower 100s across the area as that wind shift line gradually pushes through. And then it'll send our temperatures down pretty quickly tonight with that drier air in place. We're looking most of us mid-upper 60s for lows, so a little below normal in some cases, and some of us may even reach the low 60s. Then Wednesday, it's going to be hot again, but with drier air in place, we're a little slower to warm. We'll be upper 70s, low 80s by noon, but we're still looking at highs in the low to mid 90s for our Wednesday. Then we go into Thursday, and some of us could see some isolated to widely scattered showers and storms in the first half of our Thursday. Now, regrettably, that doesn't really play an impact on our temperatures other than making it maybe even a little hotter on our Thursday. These storms, again, isolated to widely scattered. Not everyone will see rain on Thursday. And then, unfortunately, majority of us will see heat once again as we start to see highs back into the low to mid 90s and maybe even some upper 90s a little further south, especially in Oklahoma and parts of southern Missouri where you may not see much in the way of rainfall at all on Thursday. For today, we do have heat advisories for most of northeastern Oklahoma until 9 o'clock tonight. Heat index values could be anywhere from 105 to 110. So if you're outside working, you're heading outdoors today, do keep that in mind. Still got some high humidity and dew points in Joplin. Not awful, but not comfortable either. 73, south-southwest breeze at 6. There's that wind shift line progressively trying to get into our area this morning. Right now, though, ahead of that, most of us low mid 70s, starting to get a few more upper 70s out there as temperatures continue their gradual climb to uncomfortable levels for most of us again today. Sunny skies through the morning, about 90 by 11 o'clock, and highs for the majority of us, again, upper 90s, maybe even some low 100s out there with those sunny skies. And again, though, the winds will gradually start to shift out of the north as we go through the afternoon into the evening. Still a bit mild by 10 o'clock, 80 degrees, but once we get past midnight, temperatures are going to drop a bit. We're going to fall back into the mid to upper 60s with mostly clear skies. Wednesday, again, low mid 90s, sunny. Isolated morning showers Thursday and Friday. And then take a look at this. Friday and heading into the weekend, we're looking to be mid-upper 80s out there. We will go back into the low 90s by next week, but we also see at least some chances of some scattered showers and thunderstorms as we head into next week as well. And we definitely need some rain here in the 4 states. That is a check of your forecast. We will be back with more of the KOAM Morning News right after this.
Like many cities, Oakland, California has been focused on crime prevention. Among the tactics used, gun buybacks.
But what happens to all those guns that are collected? Itay Hod introduces us to one artist transforming the firearms into something useful in the garden.
Here in John Rogers' workshop in East Oakland, something remarkable is happening.
So I'll cut this one here.
Guns once capable of taking life are being transformed into instruments that nurture it.
They're beautiful, but they're also made for war. They're made for killing.
For the last couple of years, John, a sculptor and blacksmith, has been part of a national movement that turns surrendered weapons into gardening tools.
I'm an anti-gun violence person, definitely, so I feel very strongly about it.
Called Guns to Gardens, the program allows people to turn over their firearms, no questions asked, in exchange for a gift card and a garden tool made from the decommissioned weapons.
This is the barrel, and so I'm going to let that cool for a little bit.
Today, John is taking an old Stevens 320 shotgun and making it into a hand shovel.
I'm using the same curvature of the gun. I'm just opening it up into a shovel shape, like a flower unfolding in a way.
In addition to the gardening tools, for the last 3 decades, he's been forging old pistols and rifles into dragons, critters, and mythical creatures. Growing up in a military family, he was introduced to firearms at an early age. Since then, he's witnessed the devastation of gun violence firsthand, after a close friend was killed in a murder-suicide. What do you hope people are going to get out of this?
I think just to further the discussion of how guns relate to our culture, how violence relates to our culture, how our adrenaline addiction relates to our culture.
In the last few years, we've had a significant uptick in shootings year after year.
Oakland Police Captain Steve Valle says programs like Guns to Gardens have helped get hundreds of firearms off the street.
I think that's a very powerful way of repurposing guns back into the community for a very positive thing.
For John, it's a chance to disarm hearts while making the world a little bit safer.
It's transformative. It's lead into gold, or in this case, lead into green.
Breathing new life into instruments of death by creating tools loaded with meaning.
Certainly a unique program.
Absolutely. Very interesting and unique to see him doing that and turning them into useful tools.
Yeah, and works of art as well.
Absolutely.
Well, our forecast, not so much a work of art as we continue with some summer heat today. There's that wind shift line by noon today starting to push through. So as we talked about, I know you've heard it, but just a reminder in case for some reason you're just now joining us, we have got our northern counties, say right along and north of Highway 54, you may not be much hotter than, say, the low 90s today. So still hot, but not nearly as hot as your neighbors to the south, as we're expecting the majority of us to go upper 90s and lower 100s across the area today. We go into our Wednesday now. Wind shift line gets all the way through here, which is good. And that's actually the dry air lets us cool back, maybe even below average tonight as we go into the mid-upper 60s and maybe even some low 60s. We're still going to be a bit on the toasty side Wednesday, but we are slow to get there. Upper 70s, low 80s by noon. And then by the afternoon, we're looking at highs in the low to mid 90s. And we go overnight Wednesday into Thursday, still some comfortable near average temperatures. And by Thursday morning, at least some of us could see a few isolated to widely scattered showers and thunderstorms. Most of us will remain dry, unfortunately, and then it'll heat up again back behind that as we go back into the low to mid 80s across the area. And a quick reminder, we do have heat advisories northeast Oklahoma through 9 this evening. That's for heat index values of 105 to 110 degrees. That's one quick check of your forecast. We're having another look at your forecast news you need to know right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Today is election day for Kansas and Missouri. Voters in both states will decide primary elections featuring a variety of races, including state and local offices, as well as some tax issues. Polling places in Missouri opened at 6 a.m. and they will remain open until 7 p.m. In Kansas, they opened at 7 a.m. and will remain open by 7 p.m. You'll be able to find results as they come in on our website, KOAMNewsNow.com. The Peoria County, Illinois coroner releases the cause of death of Sydney Watson, a Carl Junction 8-year-old who died on a flight to Chicago. The coroner has now determined she died from complications from multiple infections, which they say suggests an underlying autoimmune disorder. And Quapaw Nation is in dire need of foster parents for children. Quapaw Nation is looking for tribal foster parents that will help kids with their mental health journey and keep them connected to their culture. Potential foster parents must be at least 21 and complete a home study before they accept the child into their home.
All right, we got that hot day again today. Upper 90s, lower 100s for most of us out there. Winds out of the south initially. They'll be gradually shifting out of the north, bringing in drier air. And eventually we will cool back tonight. Still warm by 10, 80. Overnight lows, though, mid-upper 60s, maybe even some low 60s in there. Our average low is about 69 degrees. Still warm tomorrow, low mid-90s out there. Low mid-90s on Thursday. Maybe some morning showers and storms for at least some of us. Same on Friday. But as we head into Friday, take a look at those temperatures. We start falling back mid-upper 80s. We'll go into the low 90s heading into next week, and we'll start to see a few opportunities for some scattered showers and thunderstorms.
All righty. Olympic fans skilled at knitting and crocheting have brightened up parts of the UK and Northern Ireland by adorning post boxes. But it shows one post box on a residential street decorated with a colorful cozy featuring the Eiffel Tower, athletes, and Olympic rings.
A Facebook group with thousands of members dedicated to postbox toppers was filling up with people sharing photos of some of the new Olympic-themed decorations. Certainly intriguing. Really neat to be able to decorate up a postbox. You know, sometimes the ones you can buy, they're not super fancy, so if you can spruce them up a bit, why not?
And Olympic themed only can happen every, four times, whatever, you know, the whole 4 years.
Yeah, whenever the Olympics happen is the only time the Olympic themed mailboxes can happen. Well, thank you all so much for letting us put the good in your morning. We're back with more news and weather today at noon.
Have a great rest of your morning.